I'm really happy to be here to talk to all of you girls about what it's like to be a girl in science, and I've brought my whole team with me. So I will start out, and then you're going to hear from several of the members of my team. So we're going to tell you a little bit about what we study and who we are. So I'll start out with myself. So my name is Meghan. I'm an associate professor and a research scientist at the University of Manitoba. In terms of my background, I have a PhD in biochemistry and medical genetics. So I can remember back to around grade 7 and 8, which I think is the age you all are now. This is a picture of me doing my first science project and winning a medal at the science fair. So it was a project where I gave a survey about smoking to all the kids in my school division. And I can remember back then, our school had one computer only in the library. We had to all take turns using it. And the only time I ever got called to the principal's office was when I was working on this project because I hogged the computer to make all of my graphs and I didn't let anyone else have a turn. So that's how much I love science even back then. I also have training in pediatrics and epidemiology. So epidemiology, I think over a year ago, most people didn't know what that meant probably at your age, but now in the COVID pandemic, it's more of a buzzword. And so this is the science of studying health in populations. It could be studying infectious diseases like COVID, but also could be studying other conditions like allergies and obesity, which are conditions that my team studies. So the research that I'm doing currently is focused on breast milk and the components within it around the world, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. I'm also doing some research about how the pandemic is affecting pregnant women and Canadian families. And so what I love about being a scientist is really the learning and discovery. So I think it's super fun that I get to spend every day asking and answering interesting and important questions. So we're asking things that nobody knows yet about breast milk and how it's important to babies and infants, for example. I also think that science is great because it's all about teamwork. And so you'll hear from some of the people on my team later today, but I get to work with people in different fields of research. So I work with environmental scientists, I work with computer scientists, nutritionists, pediatricians, and it's really interesting to learn from all of them. Also, as a scientist, I'm really lucky that I get to travel the world. So not this year, of course, but in normal times, I travel around the world going to conferences about science and also visiting the sites of my research programs. So as someone who likes to travel, I think that's a pretty big perk. So you can see here, I have done some work in the lab as maybe we all picture scientists in a white coat, but I do a lot of work at my desk analyzing data on the computer. And so this for me is what I like about being a scientist. So before I introduce the rest of my team, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the research that we do. So here you can see how the first 9 months shapes the rest of your life. This is a big focus for us in our team. We're interested in understanding how early life experiences shape our lifelong health. And so that starts from when you're still in the womb as a fetus. And so we're very interested in knowing how what mothers eat, for example, could affect the growth and the health of their fetus. And then we look beyond pregnancy into the first couple of years of life as well. We're also studying the microbiome. So these are all the microbes, bacteria, viruses that live in and on our bodies. And actually, for the most part, these bacteria are doing good things and helping us stay healthy. We really couldn't live without them. Fun fact is that it says on the cover of this magazine, if you can read, the bacteria cells in and on your body actually outnumber your own human cells 10 to 1. So you are way more microbe than you are human. When you think of it that way, it's really important for us to understand what those microbes are doing. And then finally, we study why your DNA is not your destiny. So your DNA are the genes that you're born with, and they're really important. They're the blueprint for your life, for kind of programming your body. But we're learning now that it's not just about your DNA, it's how your DNA gets expressed, and that can change depending on your circumstances and your experiences in life. So these are the types of things that we're interested in. And we focused really on the first 1,000 days. And we count those 1,000 days not from the day that you're born, but the day that you're conceived. So starting through pregnancy, that really important period of time when a fetus or a baby is growing and developing its organ systems. And then the first 2 years after birth when the brain is still developing, the immune system is still developing. This is a really critical period. And it also happens to be the period when breastfeeding is recommended. So the World Health Organization recommends that babies are breastfed up until 2 years and even beyond. And so this is a really important period, and we think that breast milk is really important for those processes happening. So a few fun facts about human milk or breast milk. You can think of it as a superfood. So this picture shows that a baby formula contains many important building blocks for a baby to grow and develop. So nutrients for one thing, but it doesn't contain a lot of other important things that are in breast milk that we really can't replicate. And so for this reason, we can also think of of human milk as a baby's first vaccine. Vaccines, of course, are really popular right now in the news because of COVID. Vaccines help us develop immunity to pathogens that would otherwise make us sick. And it's really interesting to think that when a baby is born, it has a very immature immune system. So it's not able to protect itself against pathogens. And instead, it relies on breast milk to get antibodies from its mother to protect against those kinds of sicknesses. So milk is more than just food. It's also a vaccine. You could also consider it as medicine. It contains many sort of disease-fighting components, and it's specially made for tiny humans. So all mammals make milk, but they make different kinds of milk. So for example, a cow's milk has higher protein because that's important for building muscles. And as you can imagine, a baby cow kind of gets up and starts running around right away, whereas a baby human doesn't do that. It spends a lot of time sleeping, and that's because its brain is growing. So human milk is actually tailored to have fatty acids that are important for brain growth. So that's just one example of how milk for different species is different, which I find fascinating, as does my team. And so we have a lot of research going on in our lab about milk. So we have the Manitoba Interdisciplinary Lactation Center. We have an international study where we're comparing breast milk from moms around the world. We have a study called the Child Study where we are following families that had babies back in 2010. So we're still following those children who are now 10 years old and capturing lots of information about their health and lifestyle and how they're developing. And then we have a new study in the pandemic looking at how living through a pandemic might be influencing the outcomes of pregnancy. So these are some of the projects we're working on, and I now want to introduce you to some of the other girls on my team. So who we are, I'm going to start with Natalie, our program director.
Hey everyone, it's awesome to be here today. I see that I matched your color scheme unintentionally, and I want a shirt. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm Natalie Rodriguez. So I have an MBA and an ACC, and I also am a certified emotional intelligence practitioner. So if you haven't heard about emotional intelligence, you know, our cognitive abilities are fixed, but emotional intelligence can lead to up to 75% of career success. So after this, Google emotional intelligence. So I like to think of what we do in the Azad lab as shattering boundaries and pioneering research to make a lasting difference in the world, one child at a time. If you ask Meghan and I what we want to do, it's change the world. So Meghan dreams up crazy ideas often on a Sunday night, and by Monday, I have to figure out how we pull it off and make it happen. So we're really shattering boundaries and on the edge of innovation and discovery, and we're doing it globally. So we conduct research in over 45 countries worldwide. And so, you know, we do a lot of large scale consortia, and I would say that we're a little bit of scientific rebels. So a lot of what we're doing has not been done before, and we're known for making the impossible happen. Meghan is a WXN 100 Most Powerful Women in Canada award winner. I'm a CBC Future 40 award winner for change making. And one thing I want you to take away from today is that you never have to be defined by a job description, and you don't have to fit into a box. So I always say that who I am informs what I do. So I'm a super A-type personality, probably more than 100%, like 110, 150. I believe in excellence, which I would say everybody in our lab does. And I'm an innovator. I'm a capacity builder. So we do team science. It's not just about doing research in silos, but really building capacity worldwide. And I'm a huge champion for change. So I would say if someone tells you that you can't do something, I guarantee that you can, and you can be multidisciplinary. So I started off in pediatric orthopedics and then was running a network that did basic science and pop health and policy making. And so I think that the girls in our lab are paving the way so that you girls can, follow us and trailblaze and pick up where we leave off and hopefully one day run the world. And what I love about my job is the variety. So one day I might be figuring out how to get breast pumps to Burkina Faso on the Ivory Coast. The next I'm figuring out how we get 2,000 plus samples from Manitoba to Austria for our IMIC project that Meghan talked about, figuring out COVID home test kits because we have COVID projects, and then working with suppliers to figure out cryotubes that work with robots that can be scanned for liquid handling, and mapping data flows for knowledge integration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So you guys can literally do anything, and the sky is the absolute limit.
Thanks, Natalie. Next, we have Larisa, our research associate.
Hi, everyone. So as Meghan said, I'm a research associate, which is kind of code for I'm a person who supports Meghan in multiple projects that she runs, kind of in the background. So when I was a little girl, I loved science. I had a microscope. I would look at onion skin. I would look at sugar with like food coloring on it, but never in a million years did I think I would land up with a PhD. But I decided when I finished high school to do a Bachelor of Science in biochemistry, and I took an immunology class, and I was like, hey, the immune system's pretty cool. So I did a master's in immunology with the person who taught the class. And then when I was in immunology, I discovered what epidemiology was. I didn't even know this existed. So now I'm a trained epidemiologist. I did a PhD in community and population health sciences. And now I work on kind of all the things that I've learned over my entire life. So with Meghan, I work on projects that kind of look at how breastfeeding changes a mom's immune system. So most people focus on how breast milk changes a baby, but I'm really interested in how it actually changes a mom's body as she breastfeeds, and how this can continue way beyond after she stops breastfeeding. And also I work on the project that looks at how the pandemic has affected kids and their parents. So I love being a research scientist because I get to learn something new every day. I love asking questions. I love learning new things in and outside of work. I also get to meet new people. And when I meet these people, I learn from their experiences and their perspectives, because everyone has such a different perspective based on how they were raised or where they were raised. And I also love adventures. So this is just another outlet for me to go on adventures, big and small. Thanks.
Thanks, Larisa. Next, we have our project coordinator, Nicole.
Thanks, everyone, and glad to be here. My name is Nicole Fiorentino, and I am the project coordinator for the Azad lab. So my journey starts with a bachelor's in biology and then a master's in nutrition. And I've always had a passion for maternal and child health. And so I've kind of followed that interest. And that led me to being a project coordinator. So after my master's, I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to go back to school for a PhD. I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay in academia. And then I found out that, wow, I have strengths in planning and organization and communication, but I also love science. And so I want to stay in academia. And so I think something that I'd like to tell you guys today is that maybe if you don't see yourself going all the way to get your doctorates, that you can support scientists in a project coordinator role. And it's really fun. It's dynamic day to day. So some projects that I'm working on are how is the pandemic affecting preterm babies, how to match donor human milk to preterm babies, that we on in our lab. If you're someone that into making things, and this might be you. Says my connection is unstable. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you for a sec, but I think we got most of it.
Okay, so I'll continue with what do I love about being involved in science. I get to connect with people all over the world every day. So I email a lot of different people from Australia to Pakistan to the UK. I get to learn something new every day because in science, we are very innovative and we have different projects across different disciplines. So I'm learning things from our different projects, our different team members. And I love having that impact. Like I said before, I get to be the engine that keeps projects running. And that's very fulfilling for me and my personality type. So that's just a bit about me. Thanks.
Thanks, Nicole. Next, we have our postdoctoral fellow, Merilee Brockway.
It's Megan. Hi, everyone. I am Megan's postdoctoral fellow, which is kind of a 2-year research specialty that I have joined Megan's lab to do. And I'm eventually going to go on and be a primary or an independent investigator on my own. I'm also a nursing scientist. So when I say that, a lot of people go, oh, nurses can be scientists. So what that means is I have my Bachelor of Nursing and I'm a registered nurse, so I can practice. But I also went on and did a PhD in nursing because what I really found was when I was practicing nursing, I had a lot of questions about why we do things and if that's the best way to do them when we're working with patients. And what I did as a nurse was worked with moms and babies, specifically with breastfeeding and helping moms to establish breastfeeding. So that's the research that I do. And I work with babies that have been born too early. So when they're born too early, they're admitted to the neonatal intensive care unit to get lots of special care. And when that happens, we really want them to get human milk or breast milk. So I try to think of ways that we can really help them to get their mom's own milk. And when that's not available, we have something called donor milk and a milk bank. So moms who make extra breast milk donate their breast milk to the milk bank, and we pasteurize it and make it safe so that the preterm babies or sick babies can get it so that they can be as healthy as they possibly can be. I'm also working on the same study that Megan talked about how the pandemic restrictions are impacting when babies are born, or how they're being born essentially across the world. And I really love being a scientist because I get to ask and answer questions. And being a nurse scientist, I get to ask and answer questions that will improve nursing practice across Canada and the world so that we can make moms and babies healthier and happier. I also like thinking about the world in different ways. So how can we do things differently or better? Helping moms and babies is the big reason I do what I do. And I also love the flexibility of being a scientist. As you can see, I'm a very busy mom. So I don't work Monday to Friday. I work kind of every day or a little bit every day or a whole bunch on Monday and then maybe not so much on Friday, just depending on how my life is working out. But yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Merilee. Next, we have our data manager and analyst, Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Megan. So I'm Stephanie Goguen, the data manager and analyst for the Azad lab. My favorite subject growing up in school was actually biology, of all things. I surprisingly did not enjoy math when I was doing school. But after my first year at university, I took an intro to statistics course. And statistics is the collection, organizing, analyzing, and interpreting and presenting data. And that was the math that clicked, and I went with it. So I got a Bachelor of Science in Statistics and then completed my master's degree of science in community health sciences with a concentration in biostatistics. So my current research, I work with Megan alongside others within our lab, as well as collaborators outside of our lab. And I usually help with data creation, as well as running statistical methods in order to answer our research questions. So currently I'm working on a few research projects. So like how does breastfeeding change a mom's immune system, which I'm working with Larisa. How does milk cytokines affect allergy outcomes in children? So I'm working with Megan and a team from Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia to help answer this question. And then early life predictors and school readiness, I am helping Sarah Turner with this project, who will be, I believe, speaking next. So what do I love about being a scientist? So the ability to create data, visualize data, see it in a different way, analyzing it in order to help influence healthcare policies and practices. We are seeing this more with the COVID-19 pandemic. We're seeing results come in, we were seeing numbers getting spewed up at us. So I basically help interpret that, which I love doing. Love teamwork. I help others within our lab with their coding skills, like statistical coding that we have to do, as well as statistical models that we have to run, or they're learning. So I learn with them, which is great. And I also help collaborators with their code and statistics as well. And again, I love learning something new every day, be it new coding skills or visualizations. Thank you.
Stephanie, next we have Sarah, a PhD student in our lab.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Turner. I am a PhD student with Megan. I have a Bachelor in Health Sciences, which is the undergraduate degree that I took that introduced me to epidemiology. So I took a class in my undergrad and I loved it, and then it just kind of all went from there. So I have a master's in community health sciences and now doing my PhD in community health sciences. The research that I'm working on is looking at how breastfeeding is related to child brain development. And so we're really interested in knowing how the components of milk, as well as the bonding that happens between the mom and baby, are contributing to the brain development of the kid. Also, I'm interested in looking at how the pandemic is affecting moms who are breastfeeding. So all of the changes that have happened over the last year with the lockdowns and the changes in access to support, this is affecting moms who are breastfeeding their babies. I love being a scientist because I get to be creative and figure out new ways to solve problems. I love it also because it's innovative, so discovering things that nobody knows yet. We have so much more to learn about breast milk and about child development, and there's going to be a lot more to learn as we go along. I also love working in a team, so we have this awesome team in the Azad lab, and then also collaborating with people from different labs. And then another thing I really love about science is that I get to engage in a lot of communication. So while some of my work is sitting behind my computer writing code and doing things on the computer, I also get to do lots of communication. So that's either presenting at conferences or creating really cool graphics or writing things that I get to talk to people about so that they can understand our science better. And yeah, that's why I love being a scientist.
Great, thanks. And last but not least, we have Kelsey, our research technician.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelsey, a research technician in the Azad lab, which means I get to do a wider variety of scientific related things every day, and it's a lot of fun. After I completed a science degree in agriculture, I realized that I still was really interested in science and data analysis, and I didn't want to stop learning. So I decided to give research a try by doing a master's project that focused on microbes in the cow's environment and how this influences the health of cows. And this opened me up to the field of microbiology, which is a field that I love being a part of because it's allowed me to do and learn so many different things. I've done different laboratory analyses, like the sequencing of DNA from bacteria, and then decoding of those DNA sequences to determine the composition of bacteria that live in different parts of the body. Doing this can be really important to help us understand different roles that bacteria play in health and different diseases. I've found it really exciting to help answer complex questions, and the main ones that I've been helping answer now are how breast milk changes a baby's nasal microbes and how this could reduce the risk of asthma, and how breast milk and all the different components that it contains could change a baby's growth and development. I really enjoy investigating questions like these using different methods and data analyses. And it's really fun to just come up with new ideas with people that come from a variety of scientific backgrounds and learning from them. So yeah, I've found that research and science are never boring because there's always something new to do and learn.
Thanks, Kelsey. So I think you'll appreciate that we have a great team of people that come from a variety of different backgrounds, right? So you saw on there degrees in biology, in statistics, in animal science, in nursing. So I think there are many ways to be a scientist, but what you can see that we all have in common is that we love doing it and it's a lot of fun. And so we'd be happy to answer questions from any of you.